Good evening, everyone. Just going to play a little bit of music in the background while we wait for everyone to join. Peace, love, light, and power to you all. Please come on in so we can get started. Just going to listen to a few moments of music, and I'm just going to turn the camera off while we wait for everyone to come on in. Yes. Just go to my page. Yes. Just go to my page. Yes. Welcome, Christopher Moore. Thank you so much for joining. I got tongue twisted. I think I got nervous when I saw your name. Welcome, Christopher Moore. Thank you so much for joining. I got tongue twisted. I think I got nervous when I saw your name. Welcome, Christopher Moore. Thank you so much for joining. I got tongue twisted. I think I got nervous. All right. Good evening. Good evening. I hope everyone has had an amazing day. I hope you made the day and did not allow the day to make you. I'm going to change my background sign here. On one screen, it's showing properly, and on the other screen, it's showing weirdly. It's crazy. Let me see if I even can do that really quickly. Hey, Sissy, peace to you as well. All right, we're going to give it just another couple of moments. All right, for everyone that's coming on, yes, I know that my Lofty Convos is in reverse because on my primary screen, it is correct. But on Facebook, it is showing in reverse. Everyone that's coming on, yes, I know that. My apologies. Oh, it is Wanda. Okay, thank you so much for telling me that because I sure was in the process of changing it. Appreciate that. All right, it is 5 after 7. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Like I always say, I honor your time. And the last thing that I want to do is to belabor your time more than necessary. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Again, welcome, welcome, welcome to everyone. Peace, love, light, and power to you. Welcome to Lofty Convos, where wisdom grounds and grace lifts. We are unfiltered, unshaken, and unapologetically divine. I am so excited to be sharing tonight's live with you. Time doesn't heal all wounds, you do. It's something that we have been told the majority of our lives. And as I was thinking about the launch that we did on last Wednesday, thank you to all of you that watched the live and the replay. Greatly appreciate that. It got me thinking about the whole experience from Straw and how those wounds were still existing. And although there had been time that had elapsed, we're still faced with those same wounds. So that's kind of where this comes from. And that's the parallel to the launch on last week. I want to pause and say, please go ahead and share and like the live if you don't mind, if you have not done that already. Thank you to those that will be watching live and those that will be watching the replay. I have one small request. When you watch the replay, do me a hashtag Lofty Convos replay. I would greatly appreciate that. And then I also want to say special thanks to my family, friends, and supporters. Love you all. And thank you so much for holding me down as we navigate through Lofty Convos. And so I want to get started with sharing some information. I have actually what I'm calling an invocation. This is just my personal invocation of what I want to declare as I do this live and future lives. I speak from truth, not performance. I lead with clarity, not urgency. I am wrapped in wisdom, covered in light, and every word that flows from my lips tonight is touched by grace, backed by spirit, and guided by the ones who came before me. I do not shrink. I do not rush. I rise, I reveal, and I remember. So thank you for that. You can say amen. You can say ashe. You can say so be it, whatever works for you tonight. Remember, there's nothing off limits here at Lofty Combos. Okay. All right. So again, we've heard this expression for most of our lives, if not all of our lives, that time heals all wounds. It's a phrase that has been passed down like a lullaby, whispered to hush the ache or the pain within our souls. But in reality, in truth, time alone is passive. It moves forward whether you process your pain or not. And we all can attest to that reality. So the truth of the matter is that although time may soften the edges of the pain, it does not suture the soul, which is why we still end up bleeding for years on end until we actually do the work that is necessary to heal the wound. It's intentional healing that transforms pain into power. Unprocessed grief becomes lodged in the body. Unspoken truths fester in silence, and unhealed wounds don't disappear. They disguise themselves in behavior. I want to back up for just a moment to unprocessed grief that becomes lodged in the body. I shared with you all on my launch how I was in grief for years. Not so much after my sister passed away, although I did experience some grief. But when it came to my son's transition and having to funeralize my son, I literally was in a space and place that I wanted to die as well. You know, it's a mother bearing a child. And as much as I wanted to be present for my other children that remained, it was still very difficult for me to accept that reality that I had lost my son. And as a result of that unprocessed grief, I began to experience all types of illnesses. I became very, very ill. And it has been a struggle for the last 4 years of dealing with illness until I made a conscious decision to get up. I said this on last week, take up your bed and walk. physician, heal thyself. And then I made a decision that I'm going to live, live, live. And so here we are sharing our life with you in hopes that what I share with you, you'll be able to extract the experience, apply it to your own life, and you will begin to live and heal and be whole with whatever you're dealing with as well. And so I want to also move forward with what actually heals them. Ritual, reflection, and release are actually the healers that we're going to be talking about. Telling the truth about what hurt, safe spaces for sacred witnessing. And I love that expression. Sacred witnessing is where we hold space for the other person. We sit in silence, no judgment, no criticism whatsoever. If words are needed to be spoken, then we offer them with gratitude and love, but there is no judgment whatsoever, which is very different from the experience that I personally had growing up as a child in Christianity. As we tell people, I'm praying for you. And then I stopped and I observed my own behavior when I would say those things. And I realized I wasn't praying for people. Although I was telling them that I was praying for them, I really did not stop to pray for those persons and would forget even later on. And then the biggest thing about praying for other people in those times, it was actually laced with judgment. It was laced with what I thought should happen in their lives as opposed to what they needed to happen. And so I've learned to just hold space and offer sacred witnessing as opposed to, I'm praying for you, because is that really sufficient? Sometimes it is, sometimes it is not. So whatever speaks to you in that moment, whatever solace that you offer an individual, be true to it is what I'm encouraging you to do. Um, Other things that actually heal, journaling. I absolutely love journaling. When I can't have conversations, when I find it difficult to come out of the silence, if you will, I find myself picking up pen to paper and writing. I even use Penzu, which is an electronic journal, because I like to go back and reflect and research and search what I've written over the years. And so I use those platforms. It has helped me over the years to find the utterance to my pain, to give voice to my silence, to empty my soul, if you will. I'm one of those persons that if I am filled with emotion, if I am filled with thought, I need that to move. I need an escape. I need an exit for it. And so I have found solace in journaling, even therapy. I meet with the therapist once a year, sometimes twice a year. It is a benefit that is offered through my workplace, and I take full advantage of going to therapy. It's a very, very good practice that I have. It's to check in, see if there are new tools that I need to assist me with my own issues, my own internal trauma. And sometimes I find myself not needing it. Even the session that I had just a few months ago, earlier this year, she said, "You know what? You're really in a good place. You're on a good path, and I'm just going to be here to support if you have any questions." And so, having that periodic check-in for a therapist is absolutely essential, and I highly encourage it. Life coaches, we can only do so much and go so far. There are some things that people deal with that are beyond our scope of work, our scope of service. And so when that happens, I refer people to therapy or counseling, because they definitely will require that assistance. Um, Healing also requires movement, and it also requires grace giving. And what I mean by that is oftentimes, and again, I'm the one that we're going to use here as the model. So anytime I'm talking about these types of things, I'm talking about me. I'm not talking about you. So just receive it, okay? Um, I had the propensity to give grace to others, to love others, to be accepting of others, whereas I would not do any of those things for myself. And so all of that came from trauma, triggers, being broken, needing to be healed, emotionally. And so I have learned now to take care of Grace first, to put my air mask on first before I secure others. And that has been a practice of mine for the last several years. And I actually love that. I love that for me. I absolutely love that for me. There's nothing wrong with being available for others, but if you're not going to be available for yourself first, and then when it comes to yourself, if you take what you're giving to others and you have nothing left for yourself, then that's an imbalance that definitely needs to be addressed. So I want to encourage you, inspire you to take care of self first. Give yourself grace, give yourself space to heal, to not be okay. It is okay to not be okay. That's one of the greatest lessons that I learned in the last 4 years after my son transitioned. It was okay for me to go on Facebook publicly and declare, I am not okay. And that is okay to do. So, whatever you're needing to do for yourself, be okay with doing that. All right. I love this. I'm going to be doing what's called lofty reminders, lofty living. So you'll hear these expressions as we delve into these live sessions. Time doesn't heal, you do. With breath, with bravery, and with intention. You are the medicine. Time just gives you the table to lay it all out and to be able to serve yourself in the capacity that you need in order to administer healing to yourself. All right. So tonight I want to talk about, we've identified the issue, right? That time does not heal all wounds. Well, I want to delve into what actually does. Now, I've given you some preliminary idea of what we're going to be talking about, but there are three sacred elements that I want us to embody when it comes to healing: safety, regulation, and reconnection. I'll say that again. You can put it in the chat if you'd like. Safety, regulation, reconnection. Time may pass, but these three are actually what transforms pain into peace. So I want to talk about that transforming power on tonight. Number one, I want to talk about safety. The body must know I am no longer in danger. And we tend to focus on the fight or flight, and that's exactly what I'm going to focus on. Although there is freeze and fawn, I'm not going to focus on those two latter F's tonight. We're just going to center on fight or flight. Okay. All right. So the fight or flight response, also known as the acute stress response syndrome, is an automatic physiological reaction to a perceived threat. It prepares the body to either confront the danger, which is fight, and we all love to fight, right? Or escape from it, which is the flight. A perceived threat, whether physical or psychological, activates the sympathetic nervous system, which prepares the body for action. And here's what happens. For many of us, we tend to stay in fight or flight. And what that looks like for us is it causes us to not be able to move and deal and respond to the danger or to the issue that we're currently facing in our life, the threat, the perceived threat. So being in environments where you are not judged, rushed, or invalidated will actually help the body to know that it is no longer in danger. Wow. Think about that for just a moment. And then having access to stillness, softness, and sovereignty also helps the body to know I am no longer in danger. Because what happens when your body is in that fight or flight response, it releases those hormones in the body where you are constantly stressed. The body is constantly stressed. And I even read something earlier today that I thought was absolutely magnificent to know, that it also shifts the blood flow in the body to the point that it also only relieves or sends that flow of blood to the muscles in the body, depriving the organs of what is necessary life flow. Because in order for you to fight movement, take flight, also movement, what do you need? You need your muscles to be active. And then it made me think about the saying, feet don't fail me now, right? Because I need to make a move. And so we're constantly, when you're constantly in that state of being, it affects every part of your body and your soul. All right. So it also looks like letting the body know, speaking your truth without performance or punishment. And I want to pause there for just a moment. I can think of so many instances in my life where I was not able to speak my truth without penalty. Absolutely. I was constantly punished for speaking my truth, or having to perform it. And you can take that however you want, but that's layered, right? There are many layers to performance. And I'm sure you understand exactly what I mean without having to perform it. Trauma also cannot unwind where threat still lives. So as long as you are still feeling that threat, remembering the trauma, remembering the triggers, remembering all of the pain, then the body can never come to a place of rest so that it then can begin to heal itself. So I want to give you some practices to create as it relates to safety. Set a boundary this week that creates inner peace, not just outer order. That to me was so profound because we tend to govern everything else and everyone else except ourselves. And so it will look orderly on the outside because we want to keep the peace for others while we internally have conflict with ourselves. And I'm just not in the practice anymore of creating internal conflict in order for there to be outer order. There must be inner order first in order for there to be outer order. So I want you to set a boundary this week. Think about it. Go through what you're dealing with and come up with a boundary that you know that you need to set this week that's going to bring inner peace for you and outer order for others. And if it disturbs people, then so be it. Let them be disturbed. That's a them issue, not a you issue. Okay. Another practice to create is to use affirmations like, it is safe for me to exist in all my truths. And then seek out spaces where you feel where your full self is witnessed, whether that's therapy, a sacred circle, people that you trust and love, or a solo altar moment. As of late, I have been really leaning into solo altar moments. Like it's just me, myself, and I. I don't need anyone else at this moment to be part of that experience for me. However, when I do have my sacred circle. I do have my therapy, as I aforementioned. But I've really been leaning into, because it's a new experience for me, I've really been leaning into the solo altar moment, bringing self to the altar and doing my soul work. All right, I'm going to pause for just a moment to make sure there are no comments that we need to address in the chat. Everything is looking good. All right, so I'm going to move on to regulation. Now, this is where the heart learns I can hold this without drowning. And I don't know if you've ever experienced those moments in your life where you literally felt like, I am drowning. Like I just cannot get my head above the water. I just can't breathe. I just can't move. I just can't flow. You have to get yourself to the place where your heart learns, I can hold this without drowning, that I'm not going to break down. I'm going to break through. And even if I do break down, right? Because we do have moments that we do break down. I can restore myself and get to my place of breakthrough. So here's what regulation looks like. It is learning how to be with your feelings without being consumed by them, without shutting down, spiraling out, or crashing out. And I want to pause here for just a moment. This was my normal. This was my norm. I'm just going to be completely honest and transparent. This was my norm. I had no regulation of my emotions. I did not know how to deal with what I was feeling, um, and express it in a safe place without all of the rah rah. I was a rah rah. Oh God, I was a rah rah. Like I was always on 10. It wasn't like I just couldn't simply just express how I felt in the moment. It was, as one partner that I was with at the time would frame it, you are always explosive to the children, to the dog, the cat, my family, my friends, colleagues. It did not matter who you were. It was also always explosive expression. And so I had to learn how to safely express my feelings and calmly express my feelings. But none of that happened until I got an environment where I was safe. None of us will heal and be where we need to be when it comes to trauma, when it comes to triggers, when it comes to pain, when it comes to emotional wounds, until we are in a safe space to do so. That's why safety is first. And then we get to the place of regulation. So this is nervous system work here. It's slowing down the reactivity by learning the difference between reaction and response. And I want to talk in depth about that aspect. Now, a reaction is instant. It's driven by the beliefs, biases, and prejudices of the unconscious mind. When you say or do something without thinking, it's the unconscious mind that is running the show. A reaction is based in the moment and doesn't take into consideration long term effects of what is said or done. How many of us are right there? Right? A reaction is survival oriented and loaded with defense. Oh, baby, I could take offense in a heartbeat and found myself constantly defending my position. I even had a friend of mine tell me that one time. He said, "You are always defending your position, and you don't have to do that with me." But I felt like I needed to always explain myself, constantly explaining myself, not expressing, but explaining myself. And so reactions are usually full of regret. And I have to admit, I spend a lot of time in regret. Absolutely. Now, response, on the other hand, usually comes more slowly. It's based on information from both the conscious and unconscious minds. A response will be more ecological, meaning that it takes into consideration the well being of not only you, but those around you. It weighs the long term effects and stays in line with your core values. Reactions are based upon fear rather than freedom. And that's the whole essence of lofty convos, is to bring us to a place of liberation, right? Not where we're constantly at loss, but liberty. It's based on when we are intentional in response by thinking first, we remove the limitations around our consciousness and look through a different lens. The issue is a great many of us believe we're thinking when we're merely rearranging prejudices to fit the situation and or narrative that we have constructed. So I found myself in that space a lot, rearranging my prejudices to make it fit, to make it appear that I'm in new thought when I actually wasn't. And then when I would self reflect at the end of the day, I'm huge on self reflection, arranging the narrative so that it could fit what I needed it to fit in the moment. And so challenge yourself to break out of that, to liberate yourself so that you are not constantly having reactions, but you actually begin to respond. Okay. All right. The other thing that regulation looks like is you don't have to fix every emotion. And now let's talk about emotion. Emotion is energy in motion, right? Some emotions just need to move. Sometimes you just need to move that emotion or even move your body so that that emotion can have fluidity, so it can move, so it can flow. Um, I spent a lot of time with stagnant energy or stagnant emotions, just sitting with it and not doing anything with it, and found myself more bound, more sick, more unhappy, more depressed than I had ever been in my entire life. And so, as I begin, and I had a friend that would always tell me, live, live, live. And he still says it to this day, live, live, live. Grace, I want you to live, 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 live on purpose and live purposefully. And so as I begin to put these things into practice, then I begin to feel things move within me. And as they begin to move, then I begin to have conversations with myself. I begin to speak well to myself. I begin to heal in those areas. And now we have fluidity, right? Give voice to those emotions. Allow yourself to move through triggers with tools and not tantrums. Because let's be honest, we behave like toddlers at a lot of the times. We behave like the terrible twos of toddlers, where we are constantly throwing tantrums. We are constantly having these outbursts of emotion, and we want people to hear us. But when they don't hear us, we explode. We become very, very explosive, which still they don't hear us, because let's be honest, when someone is yelling at you, we do not hear them well. We turn off our hearing. We stop listening to them completely, because all I hear is the volume. I don't hear the voice. I don't hear the message. I only hear the volume. So if we could learn these healing modalities, if you will, it's going to bring us a whole new life and a whole new level of living. All right. So now let's continue. So I want to offer some practices to cultivate regulation. Lean into things that regulate your nervous system. Breath work, such as meditation, box breathing. I love box breathing, right? Box breathing is really, really simple. We can do it together. So, box breathing is taking in an inhale for 4 counts, holding it for 4 counts, and then releasing it for 8 counts. Okay. So, it looks a little something like this. So it's 4 inhale, 4 to hold, 8 to exhale. You would be surprised in those few seconds of recollecting yourself, of calming down your nervous system, of taking a moment to lean into the law of pause. And I'm going to talk about that in a future live, the law of pause. You would be surprised. That just, when I tell you, just settled me, just grounded me, just gave me so much comfort and so much relief in those few seconds. Try it. When you're feeling stressed, when you're feeling agitated, when you're feeling frustrated, try box breathing. It is evolutionary. Deep exhales. We all do that, right? We like to do that. But we're not really exhaling the frustration. We're really just exhaling just to be exhaling. I've learned in that moment, as I do deep exhales, to also release the frustration so that clarity comes, right? So that what I need in that moment comes to me, whether it's answers, clarity, peace, whatever it is in that moment. Allow yourself to deep exhale, but don't hold on to the emotion that is causing the issue. Release it in the exhale. All right. A few other practices to cultivate regulation. Grounding rituals. And I know we have a lot of issue with the word ritual. We have a lot of issue with the word grounding, but it's okay. Take a deep breath, box breathe. You're all right. Okay. We all have rituals. We all have practices that we complete on a daily, hourly, weekly, monthly, annual basis, right? So don't be alarmed by these expressions and think they belong to a particular group of people and it's evil and demonic and all of this. No, let's go ahead and rid ourselves of that negative talk, okay? Grounding rituals such as nature walks, touching something textured that brings you comfort. This is so powerful. I even tried it today. Because I needed it, right? In a moment that I was having earlier today. And what I found out is when you touch something that is textured, that brought you comfort previously, your brain actually goes back to that memory, that moment, and connects that sensory touch, and it brings you comfort. Now, it has to be something that's brought you comfort, in times past. If it's something that made you angry or frustrated, then it's not going to work. You're going to bring that same energy and thought back to you. So you want to be able to touch something like what children have, teddy bears or safety blankets, all of those things, something tangible that you can feel in your hands that brings you comfort. It will absolutely calm you right on down. Try it if you don't believe me. I want you, everything that I'm telling you, I want you to put to the test in your daily life. Prove me wrong or prove me right, whichever works. All right. Another thing that I do, I usually do this in intimate settings, but I have found that it's working for me just in practice, in general, everyday practice. And that is placing your hand on your heart. When you do that, it is self compassion and it regulates your emotions because it is your touch. And then when you have the thought along with that touch, your body knows that you're touching to bring it some comfort, to bring it some compassion, to regulate the emotions that you're feeling. So try it. Again, prove me right or wrong. I want you to try all of these things, cultivate these practices, and watch how it will transform your life. All right. Another practice to cultivate is creative expression. We all have some level of creative expression, whether it's writing, movement, sound, listening to music. Sometimes I just go in my room, I close the door, I turn off the TV, I light my candles. I love candles, they're fragrant. Again, something sensual that brings me comfort, right? And I will turn on some music. And I have different genres that I listen to. So I will turn on my music and I will just sway, or I may dance, sitting in my seat, just dancing. I may just walk around my room, whatever I need to in that moment to have movement to remove or not remove, but to move those emotions that I'm experiencing, to give movement to my body, to let it know we're not stuck. We are okay. We are safe. And it absolutely helps me to overcome. And it reminds my heart that I can hold this without drowning. All right. All right. So I want to move on to the next. Let me talk about this for a second. I'll talk about the nervous system. I do want to do that because I did tell you that we need to lean into what regulates the nervous system. And this is very, very important. We talk a lot about the body, but we don't talk about the systems of the body and what causes us to actually become ill in these instances. So, to heal your nervous system, you must step out of the rush and into the rest. And I talked about that at the very beginning, how we're constantly on the move. We're constantly feeling unsafe. We're constantly in rush mode. We're constantly in fight or flight. And so that keeps us in rush mode and we're not able to rest. Rest is so essential to your life, okay? Not only to survival, but good living. Um, I suffer from sleep apnea severely. And 15 years ago, I was diagnosed with severe sleep apnea. At that time, I had stopped breathing in any given night about 600 plus times. And I have the report right here in my file cabinet. At any given night, I stopped breathing about 600 times, anywhere from 10 to 30 seconds at a time. Do the math. That is absolutely severe. I would wake up exhausted. My heart was running a marathon all night long, every single night. So, although I would sleep for 8 hours, I had no rest. And we all know that until your body enters proper rest or and REM, it does not enter into recovery. It does not enter into a place of healing. So the body needs time to restore itself every single night, right? Right. We run all day long. And when it's time for sleep and rest, if you're only sleeping and your body's not actually resting, then we are not in recovery. And so I even track that every single night that I go to bed. I wake up every morning, I get my energy score and I get my recovery score. Sometimes it's low. Sometimes I'm in the 40s and 50s. I'm like, well, goodness, after sleeping 8 hours, I had no rest. So my body did not recover. My mental capacity did not recover. And I found in those moments, those days, I am challenged. And it's probably best for me to stay home, stay away from people, not engage socially, because I'm just not in a good space. And you have to know yourself and you have to be willing to give grace to yourself in those moments that, you know what, today is not a good day for me. And that is okay. Now, of course, there are days that, regardless of not being in a good space, I still have to work. I still have responsibilities. I still have things that I need to do. So, in those moments, I take time for myself. I get me where I need to be as much as I possibly can in that moment, until I'm able to get back home and take a nap. Yep, I nap at 53. It's the best thing I can do for myself these days is take a nap. Power nap, a slight nap, whatever you want to call it, whatever you need for yourself, take a nap so that your body can get in to rest and recovery. Okay. So you can't repair the damage of chronic stress with the same relentless pace that created it. You must separate the two and you must get yourself to a place of rest in order to repair the damage of chronic stress. Chronic stress is long term stress, stress that has been going on for long periods of time. You must give yourself proper rest. Okay. All right. Going to pause here for just a moment to see where we are. I do have a very special guest that is going to be coming on shortly. And so I'm going to check in with him really quickly to see if he's ready for that. And then we're going to keep moving. I hope you are enjoying the live. I hope you're extracting something that you can use, find some benefit in the conversation tonight, because it is essential. And if it's something that doesn't resonate with you, that doesn't benefit you, then please absolutely share it with a friend, a family, someone that you know that may need it. And definitely hold on to it for yourself, for any future time that you may absolutely need it. All right. All right. So, what I want to do next is I want to talk about reconnection. This is absolutely very critical. This is where the spirit remembers I am still worthy of love. I am still worthy of love. Most of what we experience when it comes to trauma um, is a result of not feeling loved, respected, appreciated, honored, all of these things. Love is absolutely the most critical. When we don't feel loved, we absolutely do not feel safe. And it causes deregulation in our entire systems. And so I want us to be absolutely real about what we are experiencing in our lives. And I have quite a few young people that are watching and even listening to the conversation. And I really hope this is sinking in. I really hope this is resonating, and you're really understanding what this conversation is about tonight and how to use these tools instead of trauma and tantrums. Trauma has a voice like anything else. It tries to rename you unworthy, team too much, hard to love. I have been told I am hard to love more times than I can count or even care to remember. Um, it also tries to rename you to be only valuable when you're performing. Again, you can take performance across the board in every dimension of life. But healing is remembering. That's why it's important for the spirit to remember I am still worthy of love. I existed before the pain and I still exist beyond it. That was my survival story, not my identity, and certainly not my sovereignty. Let that just sit for just a moment. Let that just simmer for just a moment, that we all have a survival story, but it is not who you are. What happened to you is not who you are. But we often conflate the two and confuse the two, that what I've gone through, for example, I talked about this on last week, being someone who has experienced molestation and rape. I am not unworthy just because I was molested and raped. I am not subjected to being abused the rest of my life because I was abused for a period of my life, right? So we have to go beyond the scar. We have to go beyond the wound. Who were you before the wound? Who were you before that experience happened? Who were you on your way to becoming before those things happened in your life? So use it as a reset to get back to where you were headed in the first place. So learn how to rewrite the narrative with compassion, not perfection. Now let's talk about that for a moment. I lived and breathed the notion of perfection. Everything had to be perfect because I had dealt with so much drama and damage and issues in my life. I thought, well, the thing that I can't control is my level of perfection as it relates to what I say and do. So I found myself constantly criticizing and being judgmental of myself because I needed to do it perfectly. In fact, up until last year, I would withhold certain things, going live, sharing posts, delivering the message, that I have been called to deliver to fulfill my purpose. And I just felt uncomfortable doing it because I had issues. I had issues. And so because I had those issues, I thought, oh, no one's going to want to hear what I have to say because I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect, Patty. And so once I realized that those were things that I needed to heal internally, that we do not go off of perfection, we move with effort. I give my best effort. I put my best foot forward. And when I can't, I don't. And I am totally okay with that. And so I want you to allow yourself to rewrite the narrative with compassion and not perfection. So that means that you're not erasing the pain, you're actually reframing it, right? So you're moving from victim to vessel, from broken to blooming, from silenced to sovereign. This wound does not define me. It revealed the depth of me. And I am eternally grateful for having those experiences now. Now, I don't wish to have the experiences, don't get me wrong, right? We don't want to experience these things that we have been experiencing in our lives. But some things are beyond our realm of control. And so when they are, don't allow it to define you, allow it to reveal the depth of you. So I realized that there was more to me than I had ever realized in my life. I realized that I had something to say before the wound and now after the wound. And so you have to lean into your experiences and see what it's revealing regarding who you are. Now, I live and lean into steward what remains, right? So speak to the you who survived. Speak to the you who survived. And when you do that, don't do it with shame, but with awe, and declare, I am no longer living from my wound. I am now living from my worth. Woo! Listen, there is a different me that comes from my wound, and then there's a different grace that you get to experience from my worth. And let me tell you, I am no longer walking in my wound season. I am in my worth. I am in my era of worth. And I want to encourage each of you to lean into stewarding what remains. Listen, that part of you is no longer alive. Don't give it life. Don't resuscitate it. Don't revive it. Use it for what it's worth. And that is to understand the depth of who you are, learn the lessons from it, factor it and build it into your purpose. Let it be a light and a witness to others. But certainly don't allow it to live in your now. All right? So let's move on. I want to get to this last part here, and we're almost done. Reconnection looks like reclaiming your identity before the wound, which we just discussed. Rediscovering joy, laughter, and play. That's what remembering looks like. Allowing intimacy back in with yourself, with spirit, and with others. Because let's just be honest, when we are in these toxic, traumatic, and what's the other word I want to use? Trigger moments. That's it. When we're in these toxic, traumatic, and trigger moments, there is no one that we really want to connect with and allow them to see inside of us. We actually shun away from the world. We turn ourselves all off. We go in our rooms. We go in our hiding places. We go in the dark. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with going in the dark. We come out of darkness, right? We're born out of darkness. We're in the wound. It's dark, right? And we're alone. So there's nothing wrong with being in the darkness, and there's nothing wrong with being alone. Use those moments to go within, to cultivate these experiences, to cultivate these practices, to remind the body what it needs to know, to remember what the heart needs to know, and then also to remember that I am worthy of love. Allow the spirit within you to be reconciled to that memory or that remembrance. Now, rediscovering joy, laughter, and play. I want to talk about that for a moment. Listen, I love talking about myself and using myself as the model for these conversations because they're so genuine, they're so real. I had a hard time in life enjoying life, very hard time. I was a very serious person most of the time. Laughter and play, it depends. maybe sometimes, depending. But generally, I was unpleasant and unhappy. Now, listen, joy, what's the song? And you know the song?
Joy.
Yes.
Come on, come on. And pain. Keep it going, keep it going. Hey, sunshine. Hey, and rain.
That's my son in the background giving me the beat. So lean into rediscovering joy, laughter, and play. I love to have a great time now. In fact, I live for those moments. Sunday was Father's Day, right? And after service, I came home, I cooked, cleaned, got the house ready as we were having guests. And we decided to have a trouble tournament of champions. Yeah, on Father's Day. And we had an amazing time of joy, laughter, and play.
And pain.
It was painful. It was painful. My niece Alexis beat the
Demolished.
pants off of us. Oh my goodness. She beat us so badly. It was
Yes.
absolutely bananas the way that she smoked us.
We was ready to
And
train.
I was like, the nerve of you to come in my house and beat me like this. But we laughed and we had such an amazing time. And we look forward to doing it again and again. And these are the moments that we live for. Try not to have life be so heavy. You know, there's enough going on in the world that affects us all on various levels. Try not to let life be so heavy. Get into the joy, rediscover the joy, rediscover laughter, rediscover play. Sometimes I'm just sitting in my room and I just laugh out loud for no good reason because I feel good, because I'm happy, because I'm whole, right? And I just laugh out loud. And sometimes they'll hear me, what are you laughing about? Nothing. I'm just laughing. So I want you to really lean into these moments. So here's some practices to nurture reconnection. And we're going to be done in about 5 minutes. I am so proud of me. Very, very proud of me. All right. Um, Mirror work. What is mirror work? I'm glad you asked. Mirror work is standing in front of a mirror and literally speaking love to yourself with intention. When I'm having a rough day or a rough moment, I go to my bedroom and I like to do it in my bathroom because the lighting in the bathroom is just the best in the house to me. So I go in my bathroom, I turn on the light, and I just look in the mirror at myself and I say, listen, get yourself together. You're okay. You're well. You're whole. Whatever I need to tell myself in that moment, I begin to affirm my reality. I begin to minister to grace. I begin to tell myself what I need to hear in that moment so that I can restore my soul. I don't wait for somebody to validate. I don't wait for somebody to pat me on my back. I don't wait for somebody to text me. I don't wait for somebody to tell me, good day, beautiful, good day, gorgeous. When I wake up every day, I look myself in the mirror and I tell myself, you are beautiful. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. You are going to have an amazing day. You're going to make the day ridiculously amazing. Whatever I need in that moment when I wake up to minister to myself, that's what I do. What anybody else does after that is a bonus or an echo, but it is not my voice. I speak well to myself. And that's what I want to encourage you to do. Speak well to yourself. Speak well to yourself with intention. Don't haphazardly do it because the body knows whether you speak in truth or not, or whether you're being intentional in it or not. All right. Other practices to nurture is going to be community. This is very important for reconnection. This is something that I actually did just a few months ago. I returned to service. I don't call it church. I am not a Christian. I have no problem saying that. And those of you that would be offended, then I'm going to ask you to get into a safe space, regulate, and reconnect. Because I said that when I was in the church, when I was a pastor. God is not a Christian, and neither am I. And I still stand 10 toes down on that. For those that do practice Christianity, hey, I'm right there with you. I have no issue with it. So I attend a local service. Sometimes on Sunday, it depends. I generally work on Sunday. But because I have been home for the last few months in recovery, I go, on some Sundays, but I do definitely try to make it on Tuesday nights because I love the teaching environment. I think that's where we learn the most. And then Sunday's more of, the celebratory moment where we celebrate our experiences and coming together and all of that, right? So I found that I was missing community. And then I was like, well, I can go out locally, which I still do. I go out socially, here and there, but it just wasn't the same. I was missing that aspect and didn't really have a spiritual community to join. And so I decided, okay, let's revisit and rediscover what this will look like. And I have to tell you, I have absolutely been enjoying myself, and it has been a great pivot for me. And here's what I've learned in that process when it comes to reconnection: don't heal in isolation, right? I thought I had to be isolated to heal. I don't want to be around anybody. I don't want anybody in my space. I don't want to talk to anybody, and I realized, no, I cannot heal in isolation, right? Now, that doesn't mean that you cannot pull away and have your self moment where you need to heal and recover. Absolutely. But what I have found is I like healing in affirming relationships. So those relationships that are supporting, that don't judge, that says, hey, I see you, sis. You're working on you. You're recovering. You're healing. You're restoring yourself. I'm here for you. I'm here with you. Nothing more, nothing less. Okay. So heal in affirming relationships. And then, of course, there's spiritual work. One of the things that we have been working on all year long at the local assembly is this is the year of the work, right? So whatever that means for you, get to work. And so spiritual work is just as essential and practical, if not the most, personally for me. Prayer, affirmations, journaling, candle lighting, ancestral conversations. I shared this on last week. I have a great deal of conversations with my ancestors. They are the cloud of witnesses, that is talked about in the New Testament, are our ancestors. They have gone on. They are not dead. They're just in another realm. Energy or spirit does not die. It lives forever, right? They are alive. They are just not physically in this realm. And so I have conversations with them because them being spirit, they see and know all things. And so I lean into that. And I'm going to share this very quick testimony. Some years ago, after I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and I'm closing. I had a neighbor who told me, because I don't like medicine. I prefer natural healing, holistic healing. And she knew that. And so she said, hey, I found this herb that I think you would love, that would be very beneficial for you with all the pain that you deal with. Here it is. So she got me a sample. I took it. It almost killed me, right? So I took the first dose and I felt better, within an hour. I was like, oh my gosh, I absolutely love this. And then Several hours later, I guess after it metabolized in my system, I began to have these awful zaps. It was like someone was electrocuting me. And then I became very ill. And I thought, oh, it's just, wearing off, because this is several hours later and I just felt no better. And I thought, oh, maybe it's just it's a side effect and it's just wearing off. So I was standing in front of my dresser and I went to take the second capsule. And I heard my sister Nicole tell me, don't take that, sissy. That's what's causing you pain right now. And I looked and I was like, what? Are you kidding me right now? And I said, no. And I audibly said to her, no, sissy, it's just, the first capsule is wearing off. I'm going to take the next dose. Well, immediately, it was as if someone punched me in my stomach to the point that I doubled over. And I heard her again. There was this force that just hit me in my gut. And she said it again. Well, the second time that got my attention. And I felt so awful because it just got worse and worse and worse. I called my dad and I said, Dad, I now at this time I lived across the street from the hospital. I'm talking about sharing the same road as the hospital, but I could not get myself in the car to get across the street to the hospital. I called my dad. He was in town and I said, Dad, I need you to swing by here and I need you to take me to the emergency room immediately. And he did. And I had a reaction to it and it literally almost killed me. And it's just something that I couldn't take anymore. However, that's the importance. I said all of that to say this. That's the importance of ancestral conversations, one of the importances. And there are other conversations that we delve into that I get to have now that they are, truly spirit, all spirit, right? And so lean into those experiences. Don't be afraid to have those conversations. Don't let people convince you it's demonic. It is not demonic. It is not evil whatsoever. All right. So that was a whole lot of, right? Even in sharing all of this with you, it has highlighted some additional things that I need to work through, that I need to heal, right? Some practices that I need to implement even the more, especially as it relates to my rest. One of the things that I do and that tracks for me, I wear a watch that helps me to, it assists me in developing these practices in my life. And about 8:30, it's going to send me a message and tell me, hey, it's getting close to time for you to get ready for bed. Go ahead and think about what meditation or affirmations you're going to do. Like it does all of that for me, right? Because that's what I set it up that I needed it to do for me. And so it also will say, hey, your watch battery is getting low. Go ahead and get it charged up so that you're ready to go. You're not keeping yourself up past the time that you set that you want to go to bed so that you can have proper rest. And so I'm using all of these tools to help make Grace the best version of Grace that she can in any given moment. So I want to encourage you to do that as well. So here's our close tonight as we wrap this up. Here's the lofty truth. Remember, I told you we're going to be talking about lofty living, lofty truth, all of these different lofty ideas. You don't heal by watching the clock because healing isn't about speed, it's about presence, right? You heal by holding yourself with compassion through every layer of the wound. So don't be in a rush. Allow yourself to rest. Don't watch the clock. Be present. And I have one of my sayings that I coined. My niece Destiny was one of her favorites. Is be pie, be present, be intentional, be engaged. So allow yourself to be held with compassion, with love, through every layer of your wound until you heal it. Right? Time may keep ticking, but true healing again takes presence, not passing hours. You are the sacred vessel, and healing isn't linear, it's layered, it's lived, and it is led by love. So I want you to close with this affirmation with me, which are two of the most powerful words in the universe. I am. Anything that you speak after those two words, you are framing your reality. So here's what we're going to declare tonight to frame our reality. I am the medicine. I create safety. I regulate with grace. I reconnect with joy. And I heal with power. I'm going to say that again. I am the medicine. I create safety. I regulate with grace. I reconnect with joy, and I heal with power. Why? Because I am worth it. You got to know that. You got to know that. It has to go beyond belief. You have to be a knower. And something Apostle Daniels, Dr. Daniels has said over the years, even when I don't know, I know the knower. Hello. Because the knower dwells within me, right? So I can always go within and I can always see what it is that I need to know. So here's what I want you to do as we close. I want you to think about the three healing elements that we talked about: safety, regulation, and reconnection. I invite you to spend time with your inner being and allow spirit to guide you toward wholeness. Not just being healed, not just being well, but being whole. We have every right to live whole and holy. And when we talk about being holy, I'm talking about WHOLLY. We have every right to live holy. I want to thank you for your time, your attention, your presence tonight. Again, I hope that what we have released in the atmosphere is something that will be a benefit to every person that hears it, that you share it with, that resonates with you, that you actually put into practice. Become a practitioner of truth, not just a listener. Again, thank you for your time tonight. Peace, love, light, and power to you, and a pleasant good evening. Thank you.